The iPad mini and the iPad Pro are two vastly different devices, not only in screen size, but in overall feel, use, and portability. The one thing that I won't be touching on in this video, and honestly just isn't that important to me in terms of iPad use, is power and performance. More specifically, the M1 chip in the iPad Pro and the A15 Bionic in the iPad mini. Honestly, the only pro to having the M1 chip in the iPad Pro would be future-proofing. But for the vast majority of people, just talking about power and performance only, you're really not going to see the difference between the iPad mini and the iPad Pro. What you will notice though is everything else that I touched on, especially if you already got your hands on the mini's bigger brother. Now before we actually jump into this video, there is one more iPad contender that is out there now, and that would be the iPad Air with the M1 chip. But I don't have my hands on that today, so I can't really recommend or not recommend that device, but just know that in lieu of the iPad Pro with the M1 chip, you could also get the iPad Air. We're gonna break this video down into three different parts. One is the iPad mini and my thoughts and feelings towards that. Similarly with the iPad Pro, and then finally talking about the comparison between the iPad mini, the iPad Pro, and which one and also helping me decide which one to keep. So let's kick things off with just the iPad mini. Now I'll leave the iPad Pro off to the side, but we're gonna be focusing just on this guy for the next however long this ends up being. Now the iPad mini 6 is probably the coolest iPad that has been released in such a long time. While Apple's all over the place trying to turn the iPad Pro into a laptop replacement, the mini's just over here hanging out like, hey, come on over, water's warm. Anyway, this has been the most fun iPad experience I have ever had in probably the last 5 or 6 years of being an avid iPad Pro user. Playing games, reading ebooks, taking notes, and just doing random sketches that really don't mean anything has been an absolute blast to use with this guy. The form factor as well, just being able to literally toss this into a bag, toss it into your pocket, palm it with one hand, it is such a joy and just so much fun to use. The only thing that I'm missing here is honestly the lack of cellular. I feel like with cellular, with especially a portable device like this, being able to literally take it anywhere, throw anything at it and get the job done, as long as you don't need the M1 beefy performance, is just so iconic. I have never noticed a slowdown since the time that I've had this, and I've never really thought to myself like, I wish I had the M1 chip or the bigger screen. It's not all roses though, if that's the saying. Using the Apple Pencil with the iPad mini is honestly just not great. I've been a strong advocate for digital note-taking ever since my time at university, starting off with the 10.5-inch iPad Pro, moving all the way up to this one, honestly, at this point, and I just can't really recommend using the Apple Pencil to the level that I did in university with this iPad. It's not that this is not powerful enough or that it can't handle notes, but to be quite honest, the small size and being an engineering student and taking literally 4 pages worth of notes for one single equation, this would just make me have a headache. Now, this doesn't mean it can't cut it for you. And honestly, I would recommend you going into Apple and trying out the Apple Pencil with this iPad mini to see if it does work for your use case. Just for me, for the coursework that I had, it just wasn't able to cut it. And even more recently of having this, I haven't really used the Apple Pencil more so than just laying it down on a table and typing with my finger. The only other option I would love to have on this would be swipe typing. And you might be saying like, you know, you could pinch the keyboard and you get the swipe on the mini keyboard. That's true, but the iPad is marginally bigger than an iPhone, and there's no reason why for the standard keyboard I shouldn't be able to swipe on that as well. Pinching the keyboard and getting that miniature floating keyboard style on the iPads, especially for the mini, is just comically small. So because of those pencil issues, me using the Apple Pencil on the iPad mini is severely limited, even to the point where I don't even put it on the iPad because it kind of gets in the way of the whole palming and holding it in one hand style that the iPad mini has going for it. Which honestly leads me to my next point. The fact that you can literally palm this iPad, one hand, and be able to just take this anywhere, it's perfectly balanced, it's so light, you could just use 2 fingers and hold it. I could talk about this one aspect for a while, so I'll save that for a more in-depth review of the iPad mini, but it is just honestly a blast to have like this. In short, this thing can literally go anywhere, and the fact that I was able to write an entire script, this entire script actually for this video, all on this iPad mini, just goes to show how capable and portable and accessible this device really is. Making sketches, taking notes, gaming even, like smaller games because iPad doesn't really have that much of a robust system yet. Reading books or articles, consuming media, I absolutely love using this guy. One of the real gripes I have with it is the lack of ProMotion or 120 Hertz that both the iPad Pro and the new iPhone 13 Pros have. And you will really only notice that if you have an iPad Pro right next to you. But I really do notice the difference, and it's kind of annoying that I do. I have my MacBook for tasks that require a little bit more power, a little bit more functionality, and this fits perfectly in the middle between both my iPhone and the MacBook for those other tasks. So moving on to the iPad Pro. The iPad Pro 11 fits really nicely again between the whole iPad to MacBook ecosystem, but sort of errs more on the lens of, if I'm going to be taking this out, setting it up, getting the Magic Keyboard out, why not just take out the MacBook instead? Now, I feel this way because I already have a MacBook with the M1 chip and kind of feel that whole experience. It's not duplicative between the iPad and the MacBook, but if you're gonna use the iPad, most of the benefits you're gonna get with it, you could also get by just using the MacBook. But if you have another laptop, like a Windows laptop, not a MacBook, I thoroughly enjoyed using this guy in lieu of even bringing my laptop anywhere. Now, it's not gonna replace your laptop, at least in my opinion. The work that I do and the work that I feel like most of us do with a lot of multitasking just isn't that suitable on the iPad. It can be done, but it's more of a nuisance than it is an actual benefit. What it does do, though, is give you a very limited UI, a very limited experience, and that is honestly a pro of itself. It's just so fluid and so fun to use. The Magic Keyboard especially, the whole floating design, everything about this is basically a work of art. In my years of using the iPad Pro line, and now the 11-inch M1, I have never came across a task that I needed an iPad for that the iPad Pros could not handle. This included bulk photo editing on Photoshop, video editing using LumaFusion or any other video editing app, honestly, that's out there on the App Store, playing games like Genshin Impact, which, to be honest, I've never gone past the tutorial for, but I've heard it's really fun. Where I feel that the iPad Pro misses the mark is portability. Holding this thing and walking around is kind of a pain. It's not that it's heavy, it's just a size too big for you to feel comfortable just really carrying this with one hand and doing whatever you want with it. An iPad is supposed to be a super portable device. Take it anywhere, do anything with it. You're not limited to your desk anymore, and it feels like it's too big to really capture the essence of that. And once this thing is all kitted out, Apple Pencil, Magic Keyboard, the iPad setup, this thing is heavier than a MacBook. Like, it's hard to justify bringing this along when you could just take your MacBook and bring it wherever you want as well. The only thing the iPad Pro has going for it in comparison to a MacBook is the fact that you could use the Apple Pencil and sketch with it. But let's be completely honest, if you're not a professional artist, if you're not a professional anything that uses the Apple Pencil, the most you're going to be doing with this is just like light sketching whenever you're bored. The only opposing thought to that is if you are a student, if you really do use the Apple Pencil for note-taking like I did throughout all of my time at university, this was a blessing. If you are a professional, if you are a student that loves those techie features, everything here is honestly a blessing to have. The 120 hertz display, the bigger screen size, the Apple Pencil just fitting so beautifully on top of the Magic Keyboard, everything about it is amazing. And no matter how cumbersome this thing is, the fact that I have it, the fact that it's just sitting here, it makes me want to use it so much more. If you pick this thing up, you're never going to want to put it down. But once that new tech butterfly kind of runs out and you sort of have to start deciding whether or not to bring this iPad around or bring your MacBook around, you're gonna start to run across the same issues that I'm running across right now. It comes down to, if I need a bigger screen, if I need the keyboard, if I need all of this, why not just take a MacBook instead? Even after making this video, even after talking about all of this, I don't think this iPad's going anywhere because it is just genuinely such a fun device to have. But depending on your circumstances, where having two devices just doesn't really make sense. I don't know if I could recommend this unless you're A, a student, and you just want all the fancy features, or B, a professional. iPad mini and iPad Pro, two completely different devices, and yet they're both sitting here being compared, and I am literally on the fence between the two of them. If you're an artist or professional, like I said, or even a student, iPad Pro or the 11-inch model of any of the iPads, maybe the Air, hands down the device to get, in my opinion. For the rest of us that buy an iPad and try to justify it by all the different work we could do and all the fun we could have with it, using the pencil, sketching out ideas, becoming creatives, and then not doing any of that, I don't know if I can really recommend the bulk and the power and everything that the iPad Pro has to offer instead of just getting the mini. I've been through it, and I know that no matter what happens, the iPad Pro looks stunning. 120 hertz display, the screen, the Magic Keyboard, the way it floats, it is all beautiful. But all of that niceness does tend to wear off when it boils down to which one you're going to put in your bag, which one you're going to daily drive, and what you're going to take with you wherever you have to get work done. And yes, the Apple Pencil is a differentiator for most people between getting an iPad and getting a laptop, but you have to be honest with yourself and decide if you really are gonna use this or if it is just that feature that you want to have, but you're not really gonna use to its potential. The most meaningful thing I've done with the Apple Pencil, I'm not gonna lie, has been playing tic-tac-toe in class if I'm not taking notes with it. Ultimately, if you're a student or a professional, getting the 11-inch iPad Pro or the 11-inch iPad Air, if you are a student, you don't need all those advanced features, this is the way to go. But for the rest of us, I really do think that just getting the iPad mini is probably your best bet. Let me know your thoughts in the comment because I guarantee you that one comment could probably change my mind because of how on the fence I am between these two. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving the video a like and consider subscribing, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.